So I know people love animal stories. I do too. But I want to start telling you some stories about how Reiki has helped humans. And of course, humans are animals too. So I have so many. I'm like, which one should I tell? So I'm going to tell one about me. I have so many. So look for them like weekly. I'm going to start telling you Reiki stories. They're just so amazing. But first, let me say again, Reiki, I know some people describe it as channeling something into you. I don't subscribe to that definition of Reiki. I subscribe to uh, Reiki Master Pamela Miles explains it, and she studied in Japan, which is where the healing art originated. That it's vibrational. So it's not something being put into you. It's just a laying of hands that's vibrational, and it helps your own system, your nervous system, to rebalance, recalibrate, calm, which is the first step in healing, the calm nervous system. So, so, so many people, I have so many clients who have me work with their animals, love what they see, the difference, either behaviorally with the Reiki sessions, or physically, if I'm working with them like post post surgical or post accident, or any kind of physical condition, they see the change, and they'll see that the animal's happier and calmer, but then they don't want it for themselves. And I know that's fear. And so I figure if I tell you stories. So here's one about me. This is a physical one. I have a lot of stories, emotional ones too, about other people. But here. So, and it involves an animal. I had a bad accident with my horse, Firsty, my gelding. It was just a stupid accident. It was an accident. And anyway, a friend of mine, I was going to give her like a little pony ride. My horse is 16 hands. He's a big horse, but he's safe. I mean, or I thought he was. So she goes to this was like 10 years ago. She goes to get on him. I didn't realize that she's kind of heavy and really didn't have a good sense of her body and didn't really know how to get on a horse. None of this occurred to me. So she's on a mounting block, and she's not getting on from the ground. She's a mounting block, and said you put your foot in the stirrup, and then you just throw your leg over. And I was on the other side with my hand in the stirrup, because this is an English saddle, not a big heavy Western saddle, an English saddle, and they can slide. And so I had my hand in the stirrup to keep the saddle steady in case she pulled it. Well, turns out, somebody told me this later because I didn't know, that she pulled on it hard, and it started to slide, and he did something. Nobody could tell me what. They said he wasn't bad. He didn't rear. He didn't buck. He didn't kick. He just like shook. Get off of me. And she fell on the ground, no biggie, because it was like, 2 feet. But I, for some reason, just physics, flew across the arena. We were in the quarter way in, and slammed up against the wall, was knocked unconscious. Long story short, I ended up in the hospital, a helicopter ride to the hospital. I was unconscious for over 24 hours. I was in the ICU, and they had to remove my spleen, which, somebody called my mother and she gave permission for me to take my spleen out. I broke 5 ribs too. So, but the spleen, I took my spleen out, and I have a scar from under my breastbone to past my belly button. Big scar. Because you have to go in and look and see, what's going on in there. And spleen was damaged, so they removed it. Okay, so now I'm laying in the hospital bed on drugs. Let me tell you, super drugs. And you can't see this. I had my hands, that's where the scars, like that. I had to lay on my back. And although they didn't tell me I had broken ribs, they forgot to tell me that. That's a whole nother story. But I'm on my back, and I'm hooked up to IVs, drugs and liquids for a while. And I'm trying to decide how much of this I need to tell you. Not a lot of it. The point was that I was laying like this, and I wasn't intentionally doing Reiki. You don't need intent for Reiki. I have Reiki hands, And I had my hands there. It was kind of instinctive. You just put your hand on the places that hurt, right? And after, I guess I was there 5 days, I think, they threw me out because, Blue Cross threw me out. The hospital wanted me to stay there for a while. The doctor still wanted me there. But if you could, but I was able to stand. I had been walking with a nurse since day one, but I was able to stand by myself and walk up 3 stairs and down. And so then insurance says you have to leave. But when the doctor came in to check me, I had 20 staples. They didn't use stitches, they used staples. And he wanted to check my incision before I was discharged. And he looked, I will never forget his face, because I'd seen it before with animals, veterinarians looking at animals. He said, "This is almost healed." Well, I'm like, "Not almost healed, it's healed." And he said, "No, I'm sorry." He said, "This is healed. I could almost take the stitches out now." I'm like, "Well, if it's healed, could you take the staples out now? Because I don't really want to have to come back." It was like an hour away from my house. And he couldn't believe his eyes. He said, "I don't understand how this healed so quickly." And I said, "Well, I wasn't thinking about it, but it's because I had my Reiki hands on it for 5 days. That's why." And he didn't roll his eyes at me. And, he didn't say, "Oh, hogwash." And he kind of wanted to believe it, but he just couldn't. He couldn't remove those staples, even though I was healed, because the protocol said I shouldn't be healed yet. So that's one of my favorite Reiki. So then I had to come back. Like 3 days later, I had to come back, and I almost passed out in the car. I was in a lot of pain, and it was stupid. He could have removed them while I was there. I'll tell you next time. I'll tell you an animal story. Same thing. That's looking at it. Well, she can't be healed, but she is. So that's a Reiki story. Nothing scary about it. Yes, I did it myself, but I've helped other people post-surgically. If you go to my website, wingedhorsehealing.com, and go to the testimonials, there's a couple post-surgical stories about people going, "Man, the doctor couldn't believe that I was healed." I don't know how it works. It's not magic. It's not witchcraft. It's not anything scary. There's nothing being put into you. Again, it's a way of recalibrating your own healing ability. We all have it. Does it mean you will necessarily be healed? No. It depends. It's you. I'm like a facilitator in the healing process. And will you be cured of like cancer? I had cancer. I'm a breast cancer survivor. No guarantees of that either. But it helped me with chemo. I didn't get sick. Helped other people with it too. Anyway, these are other stories. Sorry, I don't want to be adding other stories on here. This is a story about 25 staples, I think, a big incision and a removed spleen, healing in a matter of days with Reiki. So that's the story. If you'd like to learn more about Reiki, or read some testimonials, and I got a bunch. I used to blog. I got a whole bunch of stories on my website too. wingedhorsehealing.com. You can check that out. There's a way to contact me if you ever want for us to have a Zoom chat and just talk about it. If you have any questions. Okay, so I'm Pam Sorellis, Winged Horse Healing. Talk to you soon.